Liam had always loved Willow Lane. It was a small, quiet road in his town, lined with tall trees that made soft shadows on the pavement. The birds sang in the morning, and in the evening, the street lights gave a warm glow. To most people, Willow Lane was just a road, but to Liam, it was much more. It was the place where he had learned to ride his bike, where he played with friends after school, and where he had watched the seasons change year after year. Willow Lane wasn't very long, only about half a mile, but it was the heart of Liam's neighborhood. Families walked their dogs there, children played ball games on the sidewalks, and neighbors stopped to say hello. It was the kind of place where people knew each other's names and helped each other when needed. Liam had grown up hearing stories from his parents about how the road was built by the community together, with everyone pitching in. It was a shared space, a little piece of happiness for everyone who lived nearby. But one morning, something strange happened. Liam woke up to find new signs posted along Willow Lane. The signs were bright, with letters that stood out against the white background. They said things like, "Private property, no trespassing," and "Road closed to non-residents." The signs had a logo at the top, HOA, which stood for Homeowners Association. Liam frowned. He had heard about the HOA before, but it always seemed like something far away, something he didn't need to worry about. Now it felt very close, too close. It was as if the road that had been his home for so long suddenly didn't belong to him anymore. He went outside to look at the signs more closely. The streets were empty, quiet in a way that felt different. Normally, the sounds of children laughing or dogs barking filled the air. Today, there was silence. Liam's heart sank. The signs made it clear, the HOA was now in charge of Willow Lane. But Liam didn't remember anyone talking about this. No meetings, no letters, no warnings. Just overnight, the road was taken from the community. Liam walked down the road slowly, touching the rough bark of a tree he had climbed as a boy. The neighborhood felt strange, like a place he didn't belong anymore. He saw cars parked by the new signs, cars with stickers showing they belonged to the HOA members. These were people who didn't live on Willow Lane but had suddenly taken control of it. He thought about his parents. They had told him many times that a community was built on respect and trust, on sharing and caring. This felt like the opposite. Liam's mind raced. Why had the HOA done this? Why had they not asked the people who actually lived there? Willow Lane was more than just a road, it was part of the neighborhood's history. People had walked, played, and lived there for decades. Feeling restless, Liam went to visit his best friend, Nora, who lived at the corner of Willow Lane. When he knocked on her door, she opened it with a worried look. "Did you see the signs?" Nora asked without waiting for an answer. "Yeah," Liam said. "I don't understand. How can they just take the road?" Nora shook her head. "I heard some of the HOA members met and decided this, but they didn't tell any of us. It's like they wanted to keep it a secret." Liam sighed. "It doesn't feel right. The road was ours." Nora bit her lip. "What can we do? They have money and power. We're just kids, or neighbors." Liam looked back toward the road. He didn't want to believe it was true that their home was being taken away without a fight. But what could they do? Who would listen to them? The day passed slowly. Liam watched people from nearby streets glance at the signs with confusion or frustration. Some cars from the HOA came and went, blocking parts of the road with no explanation. The neighborhood's usual warmth was replaced by tension. That night, Liam sat by his bedroom window, staring at the empty road outside. The stars shone softly, but inside, Liam felt a storm of emotions. Sadness, anger, confusion all mixed together. He remembered the stories his grandmother told him about standing up for what is right. About small acts of courage that change everything. He didn't know what to do yet, but he promised himself he wouldn't let Willow Lane disappear without a fight. The next morning, Liam woke up early. He put on his shoes and stepped outside. The air was cool and fresh, and the sun was just beginning to rise. Willow Lane was quiet again, but Liam felt a new determination inside him. As he walked down the road, he saw something that made him smile, a small flower growing between cracks in the pavement. It was a simple thing, but it reminded him that even when things seem lost, life finds a way to grow. Liam decided to talk to more neighbors, to listen to their stories, and to find a way to bring the community together. He believed that Willow Lane could still be the place where everyone belonged. For now, the road belonged to the HOA on paper. But in Liam's heart, Willow Lane was still home. The day after Liam saw the signs on Willow Lane, the neighborhood felt different. The usual sounds of children laughing and dogs barking were gone. Instead, there was a quiet tension in the air, like everyone was waiting for something to happen but didn't know what. Liam walked slowly down the road, thinking about what had changed. The road was still there, of course, the same trees and houses, but the feeling was not the same. It felt colder, like a wall had been built between the people who lived there and the people who now controlled the road. Liam wanted to understand why the HOA had taken the road without asking. He decided to visit some of his neighbors and ask what they thought. Maybe together, they could figure out what was happening. His first stop was Mrs. Patel's house. Mrs. Patel was an elderly woman who had lived on Willow Lane for over 40 years. She was known for her kindness and her beautiful garden that brightened the street every spring. When Liam knocked, Mrs. Patel opened the door with a warm smile that quickly faded when she saw his serious face. "Hello, Liam," she said gently. "What brings you here this morning?" "I wanted to ask you about the road," Liam said. "The HOA took it without asking anyone. Do you know why?" Mrs. Patel sighed and motioned for him to sit on her porch swing. "It's a sad story, Liam. The HOA has been trying to control parts of the neighborhood for years. They say it's to keep everything nice and organized, but often, it feels like they only care about rules and money, not people." Liam listened carefully, his eyes fixed on Mrs. Patel's face. "Didn't they tell anyone before putting up the signs?" "No," she said sadly. "No one in Willow Lane was asked. They made decisions in their meetings without inviting us. It feels like they forgot the people who actually live here." Liam nodded slowly. "I feel the same. It's like they don't care about us." Mrs. Patel reached out and gave Liam's hand a gentle squeeze. "You're not alone, Liam. Many neighbors feel this way. We all miss the days when Willow Lane was a place for everyone." After leaving Mrs. Patel's house, Liam walked to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. They had 2 children and often hosted block parties on Willow Lane. The Johnson family was very active in the community, and Liam hoped they had answers. When he arrived, Mrs. Johnson invited him inside. She looked worried but hopeful. "We've been talking about the HOA's actions," she said. "It's strange how they decided this all by themselves. We tried to attend their meetings, but they're not open to everyone." Mr. Johnson joined the conversation. "They want to control everything: the road, the parking, even the landscaping. It's like they want to change the neighborhood into something it's not." Liam frowned. "Why would they do that? Isn't the neighborhood supposed to be about people, not control?" "That's what we keep asking," Mrs. Johnson said. but they seem more interested in power than community. Liam felt a mix of anger and sadness. The people who should protect the neighborhood were instead dividing it. He thought about all the times he had ridden his bike down Willow Lane, the times neighbors had stopped to chat, the moments when everyone felt connected. That feeling was disappearing. After leaving the Johnsons, Liam went to see Mr. Lopez, the local store owner. Mr. Lopez's small shop was just a few blocks from Willow Lane, and many neighbors stopped by to buy snacks and say hello. Mr. Lopez was a calm man with kind eyes. When Liam told him about the HOA, Mr. Lopez nodded knowingly. HOAs often promise safety and order, he said. But sometimes, they forget the heart of the community. It's not about fences or signs. It's about trust and respect. Liam asked, "Do you think the HOA will listen if we speak up?" Mr. Lopez smiled softly. "It depends. Sometimes, people in power forget to listen because they think they know best. But if enough voices come together, they have to hear us." That gave Liam a small spark of hope. Maybe if the neighbors spoke up, the HOA would change. But how could they do that if the HOA didn't invite them to meetings? How could they be heard if they were ignored? Liam sat on a bench outside the store, watching people pass by. Some looked upset about the road, others seemed unsure what to think. The community was divided, and Liam felt the weight of it. But even in the sadness, Liam noticed something important: the neighbors cared. They wanted to protect Willow Lane. They wanted to keep the memories and the friendships alive. As the sun began to set, Liam walked back home, his mind full of thoughts. He knew that getting the road back wouldn't be easy. It would take more than anger or sadness. It would take patience, courage, and unity. That night, Liam wrote a note in his journal. It was a promise to himself and the neighborhood. We won't let Willow Lane disappear. We will find a way to bring back the trust and the community. We will stand together. Liam closed his journal and looked out the window at the road below. The signs were still there, and the silence still hung in the air. But in his heart, something had changed. The road was more than just a path of asphalt and trees. It was a symbol of what mattered most. The trust was lost, yes, but Liam believed it could be found again. Liam woke up early the next morning. The sun was just rising, and the soft light touched the rooftops and trees of Willow Lane. The neighborhood was still quiet, but Liam felt a new energy inside him, a hope that something could be done. He knew the road belonged to the people who lived there, not just to the HOA leaders who had taken it without asking. Liam had spent the day before listening to his neighbors and learning how much they missed the old Willow Lane, the road where everyone shared moments of kindness and friendship. Now, it felt like a fence was built between them and the HOA, blocking their connection to the place they loved. He decided he needed to do something, not with anger or shouting, but with calm and thought. As he walked down the road, Liam noticed something. The cars of the HOA members were parked along Willow Lane, close to the new signs. Many of the people who controlled the road didn't even live there, they just came to visit or control. Their cars were clean and shiny, but they didn't belong on the street the way the family's cars did. An idea began to form in Liam's mind. He wasn't going to fight or argue, but he would send a message that the HOA couldn't ignore. Not by breaking rules, but by changing things just a little, enough to make people think. That afternoon, Liam started quietly moving the HOA members' cars. Not far, but to safe, legal spots nearby public parking lots a few blocks away. He made sure the cars were safe, parked carefully and without damage. He wanted to show the HOA members how it felt when the neighborhood was taken from its people. Liam worked carefully, moving one car after another. No noise, no vandalism, just a quiet, respectful reminder. It was his way of saying, "This is our home. Please remember that." When the HOA members came back that evening, their cars were gone. At first, they were confused and angry, but they soon found their cars parked in places they hadn't expected. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. Some people were shocked, others curious. But no one was hurt, and no damage was done. Liam hoped his quiet resistance would open a door to conversation. Maybe now, the HOA members would stop and think about the people who lived on Willow Lane. That night, Liam couldn't sleep. He thought about what he had done. Was it the right choice? Was it fair? But deep inside, he felt calm. He had not been mean or angry. He had only moved things to show a different view. The next morning, neighbors started to talk. Some were nervous, worried about what might happen next. Others were quietly proud that someone had stood up in a peaceful way. Liam met Nora by the corner of the road. She smiled when she saw him. "I heard about the cars," Nora said softly. "That was brave." Liam shrugged. "I just wanted to show them how it feels when something is taken without asking." Nora nodded. "Maybe now they'll listen." Over the next few days, Liam continued to talk to his neighbors. More people began to share their feelings. They remembered the times when Willow Lane was a place of trust, laughter, and friendship. They didn't want the road to become just a private property with rules and fences. Together, they started to think about how to bring the community back. Some suggested writing letters to the HOA, explaining how important Willow Lane was. Others thought about organizing a meeting, inviting everyone to talk openly. Liam listened to every idea. He knew that change wouldn't happen overnight, but every small step mattered. One afternoon, as Liam was walking past the park near Willow Lane, he saw a group of children playing. They ran and laughed, chasing each other under the trees. Liam smiled. The road was still theirs in spirit, even if the signs said otherwise. He sat on a bench and pulled out his notebook. He wrote down his thoughts. Willow Lane is more than a road. It is a place where people meet, where friendships grow. It is a part of us. We must find a way to share it again. The next day, Liam and Nora gathered a few neighbors in the community hall. The room was small, but filled with hope. Liam spoke first. "We all love Willow Lane. The HOA took the road without asking, but we are still the people who live here. We can't lose our home." Mrs. Patel, the kind woman with the garden, smiled and added, "We must stand together, not with anger, but with respect. We can ask the HOA to listen to us." One by one, neighbors shared their stories and feelings. They talked about the block parties, the late-night talks, the times they helped each other. It was clear, Willow Lane was not just a road, it was a community. That evening, Liam felt something new, a quiet strength in all of them. They were not alone. Together, they could bring back the trust that had been lost. Before leaving, Liam made a promise out loud: "We will keep trying. We will not give up." Outside, the street lights flickered on, casting soft light on Willow Lane. The road was still quiet, but in the hearts of the neighbors, a quiet resistance was growing, a hope that the road would belong to everyone once again. Liam looked up at the sky and whispered, "This is just the beginning." The morning sun rose slowly over Willow Lane, but the street looked different than it had the day before. The quiet, peaceful road now carried an air of mystery. One by one, the HOA members' cars, the very same ones Liam had moved, were still missing. When the HOA members arrived, their faces showed surprise and confusion. The cars were not where they had left them. No one had damaged them, but the vehicles simply weren't in their usual spots. Liam watched quietly from behind a tree as some of the HOA members stood by the signs, looking frustrated and worried. A few called for help, and others asked neighbors if they had seen the cars. The neighborhood buzzed with curiosity. But Liam didn't feel guilty. He had moved the cars carefully to safe places where they wouldn't be harmed. His goal was not to cause trouble, but to make the HOA members understand how it felt when something was taken from the community without asking. Later that morning, Mrs. Patel came outside her house and smiled gently at Liam. "I heard the news," she said softly. "You did what you thought was right." Liam nodded. "I wanted to remind them that this road belongs to everyone who lives here." Mrs. Patel's eyes shone with quiet pride. "Sometimes, we must find gentle ways to speak when words are not enough." As the day went on, more neighbors began to notice the absence of the cars. Some were nervous, unsure what might happen next. But others were quietly hopeful that this small act would bring attention to their cause. Liam and Nora met near the corner of the street. "This is bigger than I thought," Nora said. "People are talking more now." Liam agreed. "I hope this helps us start a real conversation." While the cars were still missing, the HOA finally sent a letter to all the residents. The letter was formal and carefully written. It explained that the HOA was responsible for the road now and that they expected the community to follow their rules. But it did not explain why the HOA had taken the road without asking the neighbors first. Liam read the letter with a frown. It felt cold and distant, like the HOA wanted to keep control without caring about the people who lived there. That evening, the neighbors gathered again in the community hall. This time, the room was fuller, and the energy was stronger. Everyone wanted to talk about what had happened. Mrs. Johnson stood up and said, "We can't let this continue. The HOA needs to hear us, not just send letters that ignore our voices." Liam nodded. "We need to find a way to work together. Not to fight, but to rebuild trust." Some neighbors suggested asking for a meeting with the HOA leaders. Others talked about writing letters explaining why Willow Lane was special to them. Liam listened to every idea carefully. He knew the road was more than just a place, it was about respect and community. The next day, Liam and Nora went door to door, talking to neighbors and gathering support. Many people signed a letter asking for a public meeting with the HOA. The letter explained how important Willow Lane was to the community and asked for a chance to discuss the road and its future. Liam felt proud when he held the letter filled with names. It was a sign that the neighbors were coming together, stronger than before. That night, Liam sat by his window, looking out at the quiet road. The cars were still missing, but he hoped this was only the beginning of change. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. "Hello." Liam answered carefully. "Hi, Liam. This is Mr. Davis, the HOA president," a calm voice said. "I wanted to talk to you about Willow Lane." Liam's heart raced. This was the first time anyone from the HOA had reached out. "I understand you and the neighbors have concerns," Mr. Davis continued. "I want to invite you all to a meeting next week. Let's talk face to face." Liam smiled, feeling a mix of relief and hope. "Thank you, Mr. Davis. I'll tell the neighbors." The call ended, and Liam felt the weight in his chest lift just a little. Maybe the quiet resistance was working. Maybe the road could belong to everyone again. As he looked outside, the stars began to shine softly above Willow Lane. The road was still the heart of the neighborhood, and Liam knew that with patience and courage, the community could find its way back. The day of the meeting arrived with the sky painted soft blue, and the sun shining gently over Willow Lane. The neighbors gathered nervously in the small community hall. Many faces were familiar: Mrs. Patel with her kind smile, the Johnson family holding hands tightly, Nora standing beside Liam, and many others who had lived on the street for years. Liam could feel the tension in the room. This meeting was important. It was the first real chance to speak directly with the HOA leaders and share their feelings. But there was also fear that their voices wouldn't be heard or that nothing would change. As the hall filled, Mr. Davis, the HOA president, entered the room with two other board members. They looked serious but calm. Mr. Davis smiled politely and began to speak. "Thank you all for coming today," he said. "We know there have been concerns about Willow Lane, and we want to listen." Liam watched carefully. He knew this was the moment to speak clearly, not with anger, but with honesty. When it was his turn, Liam stood up slowly. "My name is Liam. Willow Lane is not just a road. It is part of our lives. We ride our bikes here, play with our friends, and meet our neighbors. When the HOA took control without telling us, it felt like we lost more than a road, we lost trust." He looked around the room, seeing nods and quiet agreement. "Why didn't the HOA ask us?" Liam continued. "Why didn't you talk to the people who live here before making decisions?" Mr. Davis listened carefully before answering. "The HOA thought it was best to protect the neighborhood and keep things organized. We didn't mean to hurt anyone. Sometimes, decisions are made quickly to keep everyone safe. But Willow Lane is already safe," Mrs. Patel said softly, standing beside Liam. "We have taken care of this road for decades, together." Another neighbor, Mr. Johnson, spoke up. "We want to work with you, but we need to be included. We want respect, not rules made without us." The room was filled with honest voices, and the HOA leaders began to understand the depth of the neighbors' feelings. Mr. Davis nodded slowly. "I see now that we should have done more to include you all. I apologize for the way this was handled." The board members agreed to listen more carefully to the community in the future. They promised to open their meetings to everyone and to work with the neighbors to find solutions that respected both sides. Liam felt a warm feeling inside. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was a beginning, a chance to rebuild the trust that had been broken. After the meeting, the neighbors stood together outside the hall, talking and smiling. The road was still the same, but something had changed. Willow Lane was coming back to life, not because of signs or cars, but because of the people who cared. Nora turned to Liam and said, "You did something special. You brought us together." Liam smiled shyly. "We all did it. Together." As the sun set, casting a golden light over Willow Lane, Liam looked at the road with hope. The quiet resistance had become a quiet promise, a promise that no matter what happened, the community would stand strong. And for the first time in a long time, Willow Lane felt like home again. After the meeting with the HOA, the mood on Willow Lane began to change slowly but surely. The tension that had settled like a heavy cloud over the neighborhood started to lift. The neighbors, once divided and uncertain, now shared a new sense of hope. Liam noticed the difference as he walked down the street. People greeted each other with smiles again. Children played in their yards, and neighbors stopped to chat on their porches. The road that had felt so cold and distant was beginning to warm. The HOA had kept its promise. Their meetings were now open, and residents were invited to join. Liam attended the next meeting with Nora and several other neighbors. It was the first time in months that the room felt like a place where everyone's voice mattered. Mr. Davis, the HOA president, started the meeting by thanking everyone for coming. "We want to work with you, not against you," he said. "Your voices are important, and we want to listen." The neighbors shared their ideas and concerns. They talked about the road, parking, and the small parks nearby. Everyone agreed that the neighborhood should be a place where families feel safe and happy, not controlled by strict rules no one understood. Liam spoke again, his voice steady. "We want to help take care of Willow Lane, but we need to work together. The road belongs to all of us." The room nodded in agreement. It was clear the community wanted to be part of the solution. Over the next weeks, small changes started to happen. The HOA and the neighbors organized clean-up days. Together, they planted flowers along the sidewalks and fixed broken benches in the park. These simple acts brought people closer. Mrs. Patel's garden bloomed brighter than ever, with neighbors helping to water and care for it. Children painted colorful stones to decorate the flower beads, adding life and joy to the street. One afternoon, Liam and Nora sat on a bench near the park, watching families gather for a small picnic organized by the community. "It feels like Willow Lane is waking up," Nora said softly. "Like it's becoming our home again." Liam smiled. "It is. Because we didn't give up. We kept believing." But the road to healing wasn't without its challenges. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some HOA members still wanted to keep strict control, worried about losing power. One evening, Liam received a letter from the HOA board. It was polite but firm, reminding neighbors to follow certain new rules about parking and noise. Liam showed the letter to Nora and the Johnson family. They knew it was important to respect rules, but they also wanted fairness and clear communication. "We need to keep talking," Mrs. Johnson said. "This is a process, not a quick fix." Liam agreed. "We'll keep working together." The neighbors began planning regular meetings where everyone could share ideas and concerns. They invited the HOA board members to join, encouraging open and honest conversations. These meetings weren't always easy. Sometimes, voices raised in frustration. Sometimes, disagreements appeared. But through patience and respect, they found ways to listen and understand each other. Slowly, the walls between the HOA and the neighbors came down. They started to see each other not as opponents, but as partners. One warm Saturday morning, the community held its first block party in a long time. The street was filled with laughter, music, and the smell of delicious food. Families brought homemade dishes to share. Children played games, and neighbors caught up on old stories and new dreams. Liam looked around at the happy faces. He felt proud not because of what he had done alone, but because of what they had all achieved together. Mrs. Patel came to his side and smiled. "This is what Willow Lane was always meant to be," she said. Liam nodded. "And it will be again." As the sun set and the party lights twinkled, Liam thought about the journey. The road had been taken without asking. Cars had disappeared. Voices had been raised. But in the end, it wasn't about rules or control, it was about people. The neighbors had chosen to stand together, to listen, and to rebuild. Willow Lane was no longer just a road. It was a home filled with hope, friendship, and trust. And Liam knew that as long as the people cared, the road and the community would always belong to them. The weeks that followed the block party were filled with quiet but meaningful changes on Willow Lane. The road no longer felt like a battleground. Instead, it had become a place where people looked out for one another again. The signs that had once marked it as private and restricted were slowly taken down, replaced by hand-painted signs made by the children, signs that said, "Welcome to Willow Lane, a place to belong." Liam walked down the road one morning, the fresh smell of flowers and warm sunlight greeting him. He passed by neighbors chatting on their porches, a few children riding their bikes with laughter filling the air. For the first time in months, the road felt truly theirs again. It had not been easy. There were many moments when Liam wanted to give up, when the frustration seemed too heavy, and the silence from the HOA felt like a wall too high to climb. But the community's quiet resistance and patient hope had turned things around. Liam remembered the day he moved those cars. It was a small act, but it had started something much bigger, something no one could have expected. Now, the HOA board had changed. Mr. Davis stepped down, and new leaders emerged, people from Willow Lane who understood the community's heart. They promised to listen, to respect, and to work with the neighbors instead of against them. One afternoon, Liam was invited to join the new HOA board. It was an honor, and he accepted with a quiet smile. "I want to help make sure this never happens again," Liam said during the first meeting. "We need to build trust, not walls." The other board members nodded. They had learned from the past and were ready to move forward together. Nora joined Liam on the board too, her calm voice reminding everyone about the importance of kindness and respect. With the community and HOA working side by side, Willow Lane started to change in small, wonderful ways. There were more events, picnics, movie nights, gardening days. Neighbors helped one another with small repairs, shared meals, and watched out for each other's children. Liam noticed something beautiful happening. People who had once been strangers became friends. The road was no longer just a street, it was a living part of their lives. One evening, as the sun set in a sky of soft pinks and oranges, Liam sat on the porch with Nora and Mrs. Patel. They watched the children play in the fading light. "Do you think it will last?" Nora asked softly. Liam smiled and looked around. "I believe it will. Because we have something stronger than signs or rules, we have each other." Mrs. Patel nodded. "The road is not just the pavement beneath our feet. It is the trust and love we share." Liam's heart swelled with hope. He knew the journey was not over. There would be challenges ahead. But the community had learned an important lesson: when people come together with respect and care, they can overcome even the hardest obstacles. The road was theirs again, not because of who owned it on paper, but because they owned it in their hearts. Weeks later, the neighbors gathered one last time to celebrate the new beginning. The community hall was filled with laughter, music, and stories of the past and dreams for the future. Liam stood before the crowd, his voice steady and warm. "We faced a hard time," he said, "but we never lost hope. Willow Lane is proof that when people stand together, they can bring light to the darkest places." The crowd cheered softly, and Liam saw smiles everywhere. As the night grew quiet, Liam walked home under the stars. The road ahead was clear and open, just like the new path the neighbors had created together. He knew Willow Lane would always be more than a road. It was a story of community, courage, and a quiet promise that no matter what comes, they would face it together. And that was the greatest victory of all.